Okay, thank you for joining today. Thank you, everyone. I know you're all very busy. I'm going to push through this as quickly as I can. Believe it or not, this is actually the third webinar that we are doing specifically on normal pathology, on our MyBotGP range normal pathology filing product. Yeah, and it's really yes, and it's obviously really good. So I guess we're going to have some more webinars on this product. We have some more MyBotGP range products that are going to be launched over the next couple of months, which we can quickly touch on at the end of the call, at the end of the presentation. We have some tooling coming live around MyBotGP. Same principle, self-configurable for patient registrations. We're on the NHS England website for that, Docman, and repeat prescriptions. But we'll do individual webinars on each of those as they are released, going through functionality. So the purpose of the webinar today is to go through the normal pathology filing tool, which is a product that is live now for both EMIS and System 1 TPP. Essentially, we are specialists in automation. We are a vendor. I'm going to share my screen quickly. So I guess if anyone has questions, I can't see any hands coming up. What you could do is pop them into the chat, and then we will come back to those afterwards. I'm very happy to answer questions, and I'll get through this as quickly as possible, and then we can spend some time on the questions at the end, because I find that they tend to be more, you get more learning from asking the questions, obviously. Who are we? Well, we're a specialist in primary care and in the NHS. We're a vendor. So what that means is we build our own products, and that's really important, because that meant we can build a MyBotGP range. So MyBotGP range are bespoke downloadable products designed for primary care. We are working with several hundred sites now, ranging different technologies across the UK, and that is expanding very, very quickly. We're onboarding new clients, up to 4 or 5 per week, and in some cases more than that. And that's just with one of the products. We recently completed, we're really proud of this scheme here, which is a government and NHS funded run through the HIN Innovation Network's Launchpad program for helping companies innovate in the NHS. Is quite prestigious, and it, obviously it wasn't an easy win, and we're just completing that now. We've just completed that now. Now, I guess coming back to primary care is very nuanced. So what that means is you don't all do the same thing in the same way, and that means tech to support you is challenging to build, because in the ideal world everybody would do things in the same way, and then you would only need one piece of technology that you could all share, and that's the reason why there's so much reliance on people doing jobs. Okay, you're left to sort of mop up the differences. So when it comes to normal pathology filing, and again we'll go through this in a lot more detail a bit further on, you've got different labs producing the same tests written in a different way, different ranges, different keywords. You've got different logic trees that you use as clinicians around what's classed as a normal or an abnormal. You want to be, you regularly change your mind, so you need to be able to do that in terms of what reference ranges or additional checks or keywords that you need to use. And also the way that, just to make things even more complex for you, what we've seen is that the way that you're presented with information also changes. So you could start the week with lab reports being presented one way. By the end of the week they could look a different way, and you could have changed your mind on how you want to filter on those lab reports. So what we've done is we've seen that's a challenge for you, so we've built a product that can be changed as many times as you want to accommodate differences in changing your mind, in approaches, additional checks, omission of checks, and differing lab reports. So I'll skim through this and I'll get to the logic, and I want to show you a couple of demos. We've got a TPP demo and an EMIS demo, but in reality, it's the first piece that is more of interest, and I can show you a list of blood tests that our clients are using. So what we've done is we've built a steering group of existing clients who are using MyBotGP for normal pathology filing, and they are sharing amongst themselves different logic the different ways they're manipulating the logic to filter on different blood tests. And I'll share a copy of that spreadsheet now very quickly, in this call very quickly, to view. And that's 55. I think we're up to 65 blood tests now as a maximum, and this spreadsheet shows 55, and there are others that are being added as well. Accompanying me is Sanjeev Talwar. He's our technical director, and he's got very intimate knowledge of the tool, and he's on here to answer any questions that might be from a more technical perspective. Okay, just to skim through this really fast, I've covered it already. This is the HIN Innovation Program we've just finished. Really strong record, obviously, as you know, working with practices, PCNs, federations, and ICBs. Why that's important is because you got to know how to work with a practice. It's different to how you work with the PCN. It's different to how you work with the federation. It's different to how you work with an ICB. And we've got a lot of experience in that area. Obviously, experts integrating EMIS, TPP, Accurix, Patches, Vision. This is a really important point here for anyone that's looking at using this type of tooling. MyBotGP for normal pathology filing has a DCB 0129. That is a voluntary clinical risk certification. So that means that we have a clinical safety officer that works with us on this product, who is a qualified clinician who's done additional training. They monitor audit logs and all that type of stuff. So if you are starting to look at this type of stuff, you need to look for that, because not everything has that. Doesn't mean you can't use it, but it might mean you need to approach your reviewing of it in a slightly different way. Obviously, we have DTACs, DPIAs in place. That's quite recent, and it's quite surprising. And I'll just run through the business case, and then I'll get to the tool itself afterwards. I'm pretty sure you're aware of the business case, which is why you're on this call. I'm not sure if you're aware of that. If anyone's actually sat there and done the numbers, it's quite surprising when you look at it. You know, the analogy I like to give is, if you spend 5 minutes, takes 5 minutes to make a coffee, and you make 2 a day, you're spending 70 minutes a day times 365 days a year just making 2 coffees. People don't realize how much time it takes to do things. Average practice is allocating approximately 1.5 days a week on normal pathology tests. And normal doesn't mean just something that hasn't got an exclamation mark. Normal in our world is where you can apply 4 or 5 pieces of logic to filter on that test to decide whether it's normal or not. And I'll cover what that logic is at the moment in a minute. Why is it important? Well, for the obvious reasons. You're very overworked, so you can free time, you can identify abnormals quicker, more time available to see patients, reducing cost. And you can also start to enforce standardized approaches. So if some of our clients want particular tests reviewed in a particular way, and if they're classed as normals, they run those through MyBotGP, and it means that logic is used. You can also send text messages, if you like, to patients, so they're not calling reception to find out about a normal result. Our product, and you should have all had a copy of this brochure. I'm going to skim through it and then show you the demos. So it's a very fast download. So MyBotGP is a 5-minute download and about an hour to install and configure. So in principle, you can have 20 sites, 5 different practices, 6 different practices, 30 different practices. It doesn't actually matter. We can send you an email. Each one gets their own email. You download MyBotGP. It's a 5-minute download, and it's ready to use. All it needs to be is plugged into EMIS. We'll send you a list of blood tests, examples, an indicative list in advance of that, which I'll cover off with you in a moment. You go through those, sign those off as correct or incorrect, change them, amend them, update them, and we'll upload that into MyBotGP. So it's live very, very quickly. So what can it do? It's built to accommodate differences in approach by clinicians. It's built to accommodate differing lab report nuances. Really, really important. Your lab reports are all different and they change. It's able to read the whole lab report, and it applies the rules that you define to make a decision to filter off that test as a normal or leave it alone because it's abnormal and the doctor needs to look at it. MyBotGP can do additional checks in the patient record. What that means is it can look at a test. It can then go back to the logic that you've loaded it with and say, for that test, if it sits out of range, do I need to go back to look at a previous test? Or even if it sits in range, do I need to go back and look at a previous test, and then look for a percentage increase or decrease in tolerance to define whether that test needs to be left for a clinician to look at or not. Really important this point here as well, your tolerances. We are not a company saying that we've got a great new protocol and you can use it and it's going to save you lots of time. No, MyBotGP is built. It's got 5 pieces or 6 pieces of fixed logic. They're your pieces of logic to manipulate as you like in order to filter on normal or abnormal. It's completely in your control. We can send text messages. I know there's some lots of talk about this at the moment about who pays for it, if you're using Accurix, who doesn't pay for it and stuff like that. But what we've done, if you want to send text messages, you tick a box for a blood test. If you don't tick that box. So it's left up to you to decide whether you send a text message or not, but the capability is there. MyBotGP is highly scalable. It's been built for scale. Touching on what I said before, I can send an email to 5 practices now, 5-minute download at each practice. You'll all have your own copy, and you can configure the rules differently if you want to, or you can use the same rules. You might be using the same lab, different labs. It's all of those challenges around building tech for primary care in regard to this have been accommodated. So what are the rules? The interesting bit. Minimum maximum ranges, keyword checks or absence of keyword checks, patient record or path lab, patient history, going back to look at previous tests, as I touched on before, gender, you can add different ranges, differing tests in terms of time increments and age. There's a reporting analyst, so you can take all of these pieces of logic and you can apply whichever ones you see fit to every single blood test. So for some, you might want to apply 3 pieces of logic, for others only 1, others 4, other blood tests you want to omit because they're not for a MyBotGP bot. And I'll show you how you do that. And this is why it's important, because what we've seen is that some clinicians look at a blood test and say, oh, I'm happy to file that if there's no exclamation mark. Other clinicians will look at the same blood test and say, yeah, I'm happy to file those with no exclamation mark, but that one I always like to look in the patient record. Another practice or clinician will look at that and say, yeah, no exclamation mark is fine, but I know that there's a keyword I need to look out for from my lab as well, which helps make a decision. So this tool enables you to tweak and set your filters up as you wish for each individual blood test. There's also the ability to, well, not the ability, we've also built a full data analytics dashboard in the back of MyBotGP as well, which is super important. And I think over the next few years, people are going to start to make use of more and more, not just to prove what you've done, but also to start to pick out potentially patterns and themes. So everything that MyBotGP looks at, it takes a log of, it's anonymized, and you can click on that and go back and look at every single path report and say, okay, this is the logic that was used to file that as normal, and there's time stamped and securely done. So you've got full evidence of that. So if anyone says, what did you do with your last 1,000 test results, you can press a button and there it is. Okay, so this is the dashboard. I'm going to show you the dashboard, then I'm going to show you the spreadsheet, and then I'm going to show you a demo. I'm just checking the time because I want to get through this quickly and then leave it open for questions. So this is what it, so if you think of the scenario as you said, yep, I want to take MyBotGP, and we do offer free trials. If anyone on this call wants a free trial, we offer 6-week free trials. Please contact us afterwards and we'll organize that for you. But the logic would be the same whether it's a free trial or a purchase straight off the bat. It doesn't make a difference. Sign the paperwork, and then we'll send you a list of blood tests, indicative blood tests that are listed. You go through those. What we're hearing from our clients is it takes a couple of hours. Adjust the ranges, tolerances to be bespoke for how you want them done. We book an install date. We will email you a link. You download the link, download it at the practice, plug it in. We'll plug it into EMIS or TPP, whichever system you're using, and then we upload the rules. And then MyBotGP has been loaded with your filtering rules. and then it goes live, and then obviously there's an audit trail, so you can do regular checks to validate that everything's working correctly, and we'll support you with that. We've got a training program that goes with that as part of the package. So if you take liver function as an example, liver function test, I'm not saying you'd want to use all of these pieces of logic for this test, but this is just to show capability. If you wanted to add a new blood test category, you can manually write it in there and press add. If you want to file for a normal report, you simply tick on that box and it will file it. If you don't, you don't file it and it won't. If you want to send a text message to a patient, you tick that box and then you can just write in message setup what message you want to send in regard to this particular blood test. If you don't, you leave it blank. You'll know in relation to your site, how you store records and your labs, whether for a liver function test you need to look for a keyword or an omission of a keyword or a keyword in a problem page or a keyword being present or absent. And again, this can be applied to every single blood test. And whichever one is correct for that test, you just tick that box or that box or that box. And then you manually write the word in that it needs to look for. We are building out patch up some updates further down the line where this will be just plugged straight back in. But again, that's for a different conversation. So you'll put that word in. Now, the reason why you need to put that word in is because the words are different everywhere. So, you know, and with this type of technology, you can't guess. So MyBotGP will not guess. You know, if there's a typo, it's going to say, I don't recognize that, because if you start guessing, that's not safe. This has to be a bullseye. So, you know, diabetes with a capital D and no problem. So, and that's really powerful because your keywords and stuff will change. So you can go back in and update and amend those keywords at any time if the lab changes the way that they're presented. So you don't lose any time or processing capability. So if you come here, these are indicative ranges. Now, you could set this up like this. If you wanted to change it tomorrow, there's a username and password that it's locked down with. You can log in and you can make a change and save it and lock it down again. Obviously, there's due diligence needs to be taken at practice site that no one's logging in and changing ranges without other people knowing and stuff. And again, we can help support you, talking you through that as much as we are allowed to. Obviously, there's stuff you need to do in the NHS, but we can point you in the right direction. So if you take this as an example, serum albumin, if that's the range that you're comfortable with, and if it sits outside of that range, MyBotGP will look for that. It will read it. If it's in range for all of these, it will pass it. If it's out of range, it will fail it. Say, for example, for serum albumin, you wanted to set a 5% tolerance, increase or decrease. You can do that by literally just clicking yes on that and then writing 5%. And what that means is you can say, okay, read this blood test for all of these. If they're inside range, I've got no problem. That one, if it's outside range, I'm giving a 5% tolerance before it classes as something that it can't look at. If you want to add additional blood test categories, you can add them in here. And then obviously, if you want to file with or without comments, you can add that functionality in here and you can manually write the comments that you want to update it in. So going back to the rules that I talked about at the beginning, you are able to configure those rules, coming back to here, as many or as few as you would like at your practice for each and every blood test. So I'm going to show you what that turns into in a minute now. And I'll show you an example spreadsheet that we're sharing with clients, which as I touched on before, has got 55 blood tests. That's now up to 65 blood tests. And it's not saying that you're going to put all 55 or 65 in yourself. That's up to you. But just showing how much people are starting to include. Here's a snapshot of the audit log, which is super important, and I'll show you that in a moment as well. You can see everything's anonymized. Dry run means dummy run. And it's broken down into 3 sections: filings by date, filings by category, and detailed data of the filing. So what I'm going to show you now is an example of some of the filing rules. Okay. I think that's in this folder here. Yeah, here we go. So what does it actually mean? Okay, this is what it means in reality. That's quite big. I can make that smaller somehow. Okay, so here's an example of some of the rules, how you can manipulate the rules to include or exclude pathology test results. And say pathology because we are including anything that is on that form MyBotGP can read. It's not restricted only to blood tests. Minimum maximum ranges, normal, keywords. What that's done is that's turned into something like this. Okay. And this has been created by the sites that we're using that are working with MyBotGP. Not saying you're going to agree with all of these, but it's just to show you how they are manipulating the different potential ways of filtering for each individual blood test in order to filter on normal or abnormal. You can see here HbA1c, minimum maximum range, keyword absent in the problem page. This is an interesting one that comes up a lot. A lot of our clients are looking at prostate like that. We've got other clients that are saying, no, we just want to put a flat default of looking the previous test for a percentage increase or decrease. And if it's more than, I don't know, 20%, we want to know. You can do that as well, given the ability to do what you want. And even since we've gone live with this product, we've been told that lipids has changed. So this is now slightly out of date, which is great because it's not a problem for the tool because you can just open it up, change the ranges in literally a couple of minutes, and I'll show you what that looks like in a second, and it will carry on working. This has got 55 tests in here, and we do have sites up to 65 tests now, and I'm just waiting for an updated spreadsheet that I can share for calls like this. This is indicative, just to make that clear. We're not saying this is what you have to do. This is just indicative. This would be sent to you. You'll go through this and amend it where you see fit, and then we'll upload your rules in here. You can see how these are split off. So what does it actually mean? So I've got an EMIS and a TPP demo. I'll go through the EMIS one first. There's actually, excuse me, this piece is more important than the actual demo because the demo is just a robot using EMIS or TPP to apply the rules that you use, that you've told it to filter on. I'll let it log in here. That's a panel you'll have at your practice. This can be on a virtual machine. It can be hosted, or it can be at practice on a PC or a laptop. That's completely up to you. Different people have got different reasons for using different approaches, but the ability to use either is there. You're not limited. So if you go through that, I always like to talk through the process from the beginning. So if you run through the process from the beginning again, just to show you how we got to where we are today. You want to use it, we send you we do all the paperwork, we send you the spreadsheet, you go through the spreadsheet. Our clients are telling us it takes about an hour and a half, 2 hours to go through the spreadsheet and just tweak it and amend it and update it. Book an install date. Doesn't matter where it's being installed, worry about that later. Install it, plug it into TPP or EMIS, upload your spreadsheet, and now it's been pre-configured with your rules. That's then locked down. Excuse me. And then MyBotGP is now going to read the pathology reports based on your rules. If you want to change any of those rules, you can log in, it's locked down with the username and password. You just log in and make the change whenever you want. So this is what I'm going to do here. I've just forwarded that because they take ages to type. So what we've done here is just to show capability is we're adding the hemoglobin estimation for males and females to full blood count. So someone's just manually writing that, and that would be you or us, doesn't matter. Press add, and now you can see that's popped up on there. Now they're going to do the same for female. Press add. That's popped up on the screen. You can see that's been added here. So you've just added in two additional tests. Now they're writing the ranges in. Again, you can change the ranges. And now what we're saying also, we'll come back to that in a moment. I'll pause it after it's done that and just explain to you what it's been told to do. Okay, so what it's been told to do here is to read all of the test results, obviously starting at the top. If that's in range, fine. In range, fine. If any of that is out of range, it's not been told to look at a previous test result. It's out of range, so it's a fail. And then it gets to the last two, and it said, here are your ranges. If it sits outside of the range, look at a previous test result. It's given a tolerance of 10%, just by example, to be filtered as normal or abnormal. Here's another example, just to show capability, and you can do multiple checks in here as well. So we're saying for HbA1c, let's pause that, send a text message to the patients if the test is normal, and one of the checks that's been said to do is check and see if a keyword is absent in the problem page of the word diabetes. Obviously, you can do additional checks as well. What we're trying to do here is just to show you how we built it, so it's quite easy to manipulate the logic. Bone profile, keyword absent, antibody, update, and it will look to see if that word is absent. So do a couple more of these, and then I'll bring it over to a demo. This one here, and then this should stop. And this is how our clients have got to this 55, 65 blood tests. At some point, it will obviously saturate and it will reach its limit. We don't yet know where that's going to be because we're seeing some really creative ways that different practices or partners are manipulating the logic and popping up with new stuff. So what we're doing is we're just sharing it and saying this is what other people are doing. If it's if it just, and then you can make your mind up about whether you want to copy that or not. This is an EMIS demo. I can quickly whiz through a TPP demo as well. It's the same front end. Nothing changes. It's just how it then actions those rules. Obviously, there's slight differences in the two systems. But what you're seeing now, this is the automation piece that's purpose built on the top right hand corner. It's a bot firing it, and now it's replicating a person, and it's going to open up EMIS as a person does, and it's going to open up the lab reports, have a read, see what it's allowed to look at, what it's not allowed to look at. Anything it's allowed to look at, it will look at the ranges, keyword checks, absence of keyword checks, obviously previous test results as pre-configured in that front panel, and then file it or not file it. Now, some of the feedback we were given in our testing sites before we go live, any of our products we run in, we work with, we've got a steering committee of clinicians that we work with, and numbers of testing sites that we work with. And some of the feedback that we were given was that, especially for EMIS, similar scenario for TPP, is that they didn't want inboxes emptied. So anything that MyBotGP sees, it will action and it will mark it that it's seen, but nothing's whizzing through without you seeing anything. The reason for that is that they said they want to use that for reminders, and obviously this is a normal pathology filing tool. This is not an abnormal pathology filing tool. We are working on an abnormal, and that is about a year away, I think. But for normal pathology filing tests, some people are normal, have normal results, and they're not normal. So that we're not ripping those out of an inbox and they're not whizzing through without anybody seeing. That's not being emptied. And then existing clients what they're doing is they're doing a bulk archive based at practice level. They decide when they want to empty that inbox to empty it essentially. So nothing's, you still got full visibility of everything that's happening. So just let's run for another minute or two, and then I'll go to the audit log in the back and show you what that looks like as well. Another minute or two. Again, if you've got any questions, please pop them in the chat, and we'll come back to them after. Let's forward this on a little bit. And this is essentially a recording. Hang on. Oh, sorry, I was talking away there. I was on mute. So once this is completed, I'm just going to forward it on. And move that to there. What we get to is this. Really, really important. Physical proof and an audited log of absolutely everything. Let me go back a bit. That has been reviewed. There's not a mystery anymore. Everything is there, physically, physical proof of all of the rules that you've used, and a full audit log that's downloadable at any time. Coming back to responsibilities at practice level, obviously, regular, the normal stuff you do with any technology, the normal regular checks and audit reports with our support or without our support. Obviously, whatever you need us to do, we'll do. But all of the data is there. Everything is there. So I've got another quick demo I can show you, which I haven't actually shown before, but I'll run that very quickly just for those of you that want to physically see it in TPP. And there's a lot more flashing text and stuff as TPP does. This is the scheduler. Do you want it running all the time? Do you want to run it twice a day, once a day, 3 times a day? All of that can be configured in advance. Now what you're seeing, going back to the first page where the rules are being configured, and you're seeing it's logging in. And again, apologies for all the blurriness, but it had to be. I just have to clean off any identifiable information. People often ask, how quick is it, or how slow is it? Well, it's essentially it's as quick as the machine that it's using. But in our world, what we've seen, and once you actually start to use this stuff, speed doesn't matter anymore. It's not about how fast, it's about, is it robust, does it always work, and is it accurate? Because it's always running in the background. So it doesn't need to be, rocket ship fast. And sometimes if you make things go too quickly, you can create issues. So speed is not an issue. It's the fact that, does it log in at 10 o'clock in the morning, and will it finish when it, does it finish in an hour or 2 hours? Will it log in at 6 in the evening, every single time, and just run in the background, constantly emptying your inbox? So there's different ways that we're seeing people procure the MyBotGP range. So we've got practices, a lot of practices buying it on their own. We're also they're also then trying to engage with PCNs to acquire for all practices. That's starting to happen a lot more now, and then federations. And then going back, and it's the same principle. If this was a PCN or federation acquisition, or an ICB acquisition, everyone still gets their own copy. So no one's going to tell you what to do. The other thing that is also possible is if you have hubs and a shared inbox, and you're all sharing test results, you can take one copy, and it can essentially look at everything in one copy, in one inbox. So you might only need one copy of MyBotGP, because it's plugged into five sites. Depends how you're configured. We put a lot of, again, we've got a lot of experience in primary care, and we spent a lot of time building something which essentially is can be consumed in a number of different ways. So that's me run through everything super fast. I can go over stuff again if anyone wants me to do that. And I guess any questions. How is our product different to other solutions in the market? Yeah, it's totally different. I don't believe there is anything even remotely similar to MyBotGP for normal pathology pathology filing in the market at the moment. And I can say that because we used to do things the other way. There are other automation products that can do some types of filing, but they are purpose-built consultancy-led projects. So what that means is you would have to tell them, go and copy this decision tree for filing 20 bloods, and they would say, well, that's going to take me a month. And you would say, well, how much is that going to cost? And then you'd say, oh, that's a lot of money. Maybe take 15, or maybe take 6. Now, then you come to an agreement. When they build it, you're stuck with it. If any of the ranges change, or any of the keywords change, or you change your mind on anything, you need to go back and you need to pay more money, and they need to log in and they need to change. And that means the tool will not work for up to a month, sometimes longer, sometimes shorter, and they will charge you more money. It also means that if you want to buy this across with a couple of your colleagues, starts to get really complicated, because you would all have to have your own logic trees. Someone's got to build them. Who goes first? Who goes second? What happens when things change? It's a car crash, with respect, I believe, waiting to happen. This is the way we used to work. We've got a lot of clients that we work this way with, and we'd made a decision to stop doing that in, I think, October of last year, so we can look after our existing clients. And we went ahead with the MyBotGP range on the basis that this is fully configurable at practice level. So you can change it as much as you like. You do not need to come back to us. So why that's important? Because, you know, you change your mind regularly in the way you're presented with information regularly. So you have to be able to change it yourself. There's no issue with the old tooling. It's just not right for primary care. There are very few places where things change so regularly. I've seen a hand up. If you can pop stuff in the chat, I don't know if that's the same person, but then we can get back from there. So let me just go up to this question here. Sanj, do you want to cover I have Rahul's question here. How about results which are reported?
Yeah, sure. So 100%. So we have built the algorithms and the logic to pick up and read lab results, which are demonstrated in a different ways, and as you've just put there, so you can see lab ranges coming in min-max ranges, less than or greater than, or positive weekly and positive negative, etc. So there is logic in there to extract that and then determine the outcome that you're looking for via the panel.
Thank you, Sanj. Another question here from Sam. Sanj, do you want to touch on that one? So since it,
so often you run having two systems loaded up. So essentially, the preferred way to use MyBotGP is on a dedicated machine, as you put there. So it would have its own dedicated machine, virtual machine, laptop, PC, however you want to run it. That would be placed in a secure place, as a person would be if they were filing normal pathology results. MyBotGP would have its own credentials to log in out of EMIS and System 1, and then, as I say, action based on the rules that you've stated within the MyBotGP panel.
Thank you. If anyone wants to come back on any other questions, if we've not answered them in enough detail, please come back, and that I'm literally just have a chat to look at here, which I'm going through. So another question here from Dr. Roper, where patients have multiple normal results, e.g. normal kidney function, liver function, blood count, can patient receive one text message? Or I can answer this one, or will it have to be multiple? Will it be multiple ones. Feedback about SMSs, patients, you are sending too many. Yeah, 100%. We're seeing this a lot. So we spent a lot of time looking at different scenarios of how you could bulk test together, split them off, and it's that could be another webinar on how you define a logic as to at what point do you send out one text message for 10 results. Did one get lost? Do you wait one wasn't lost? What happens? So we made the decision as part of our DCBO 129. We're doing it on individual, if you want, on individual blood test function, i.e. if you only wanted text messages sent for patients for an HbA1c test, you tick that box, and then it will only send for that blood test. Chetan, there's a question here. I'll let Sanjeev take that one.
Okay, so again, we have some results which, although abnormal, do not have an exclamation mark next to them. Okay, so again, the filing rules and logic are governed by what you state within the panel. So what it will do, it can override the fact that it won't look for normal or abnormal. What it will do, it will take your blood test, your subtest categories, your min-max ranges, whether they are slightly out of range or normal stroke abnormal keywords. It will then read the patient test result. It will then apply the rules that you've stated, and then it will override that if you so want it to. So again, it's all about the rules and how you want to file, whereas another clinician will say, no, I only want to look at normals, and these are my ranges. So again, you have that flexibility to do that. In terms of setup,
I can do that.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I'll do that one. Yeah, the setup we've got down to a couple of hours work at the moment. So that's and then to configure it, obviously it needs some monitoring. So it's not a huge amount of time. With regards to them not taking you much time, that's okay. We have feedback that clients are spending a lot of time. Average site 1.5 weeks, 1.5 days per week, filing normal pathology test results, which is equating in 19 days per year per clinician, average practice with 4 partners. So it's 19 times 4, 60 days a year filing normal blood test results. I'm not challenging you that it doesn't take you much time. Maybe it doesn't, but that's the average stat that's out there at the moment. Up to 60 days, 60 days at either locum or partner salary or doing other stuff. Yeah, you don't send blood tests to patients from that are normal. Okay. How is this the SMS charge? If you're using Accurix, it's charged in the same way. We just trigger it through Accurix. It's exactly the same as if you're doing it yourself. So do we have any more questions? If not, I can carry on with the next piece. Yeah, cost is quite straightforward and free trial. We're offering a 6-week free trial. So six weeks. Cost, there are 2 costs for MyBotGP. We work at there's a cost for the application itself. That's £499 plus VAT, and then we charge 30 pence per patient for a patient list. So if you took a site with 10,000 patients, you're looking at 3,499 plus VAT. So 10,000 times 30 pence plus 499 on a subscription basis. And again, the free trial is 6 weeks. No, it's a yearly subscription per year. Yes. Yeah. So think of it as it's a subscription model for the application. Okay. If anyone else has got, hang on, that's a really good question. So it's quite it's quite interesting. Per patient cost, both costs are a yearly subscription. Now coming back to, can different GPs in the same surgery configure the software differently, or are the rules per surgery? That's really interesting. So you can only have one set of rules in one copy. So we have got a couple of sites at the moment, although I don't believe they will do that long term, who've got a couple of copies of MyBotGP because they wanted to use different logic. So from the outside looking in, I mean, it's additional cost, it's fine. They for us, they'd take 2 copies of the application, so it'd be 499 instead of 1 times 499, it would be 2 times 499. But it is possible. But I think longer term, once unless there's a specific reason for it, once people start to become more used to incorporating this type of technology within the levels that they're comfortable with using it, then they'll come to an average, sit down and come to an agreed practice level set of tests. And if there are some tests you want to omit, then they can be omitted. That's where I think it will go. Maybe I'm wrong, and maybe in the next 3 or 4 years we'll see lots of practices with multiple copies at practice level. I guess we'll wait and see what happens. So there seems to be a bit of confusion around the cost. I'll go over that again. So Sanjeev has put something in the chat. Sorry, I didn't see that. Yeah, 30 pence a patient plus 499 per year plus VAT. So going back to the analogy before, the example before, one site, 10,000 patients, it would be 10,000 times 30 pence, which is £3,000, plus one copy of the application, 3499. So 3499 plus VAT. We've charged that way. But we were toying with a fixed fee, but feedback we got is different sizes of different practices didn't want to pay, the smaller practice didn't want to pay the same amount as a bigger practice, and a bigger practice sometimes, because they were big, wanted to pay less than a smaller practice. So we went to the standard model in primary care where we charge a fixed cost for MyBotGP, which is 499 plus VAT, and then you've got the patient list size defines the secondary cost. So if you've got 5,000 patients, it's £750. If you've got 10,000, sorry, £1,500. If you've got 10,000, it's £3,000. So please keep putting questions in if they're in. So I just talk about that's where I was going to come to next. Thank you, Carl. So we are we've got a couple of really interesting things happening in the next couple of months. Patient registrations will be live soon for EMIS. We're going to charge a flat fee for that. Flat fee, one, it doesn't matter how many patients you register. That fee, that's going to be quite cheap, we believe, compared to what other companies are looking at, because other companies are looking at patient registrations. That, I believe, is going to be somewhere in the region of 895 plus VAT on a yearly subscription. You could be a 5,000 site practice or a 50,000 site practice. It doesn't make a difference. Flat fee, register as many as you want. Document will be live within the next 4 to 6 weeks. That's also really interesting. So we've automated document multiple times using the old way. And what we saw also is different people code letters in different ways, different people file letters in different ways. And we've built the ability for you to set up your own filing rules for document at practice level that can be changed. So it will read everything, like every letter that comes in, and it will file every letter that comes in. We haven't looked at the complex coding piece, whereby trying to read paragraphs of free text to try to code from that, because from our perspective, nothing about other people do what they do. For us, we believe it's not safe for us to do that, so we've drawn the line there. So our logic, excuse me, is remove all of the stuff that doesn't need highly specialist skills, and leave the people with the highly specialized skills or lots of experience to do their work, and take everything else off their plate, rather than try and go for the really complex stuff. Doesn't make sense from our perspective of it. And again, that will be charged in the same way, give or take, as the normal pathology filing tool. We have a repeat prescriptions MyBotGP coming live in about it's in testing at the moment with a number of testing sites, in about 6 to 8 weeks, I believe. That's really interesting. Within that, safe highest medications, cycles, have you had blood tests, all of that logic has been replicated, and you will be able to use drop down menus to drive that logic and configure that logic as per you wish. And then whether it plugs into EPS signing or doesn't doesn't really matter. It's gonna sign it off, but we're giving you the ability to replicate your logic in making decisions around whether stuff can be released or not, and doing the additional checks around that. And that's where we're going to stop, I believe, for the moment. It's quite a lot. Normal pathology filing, patient registrations, document repeat prescriptions. We're also testing some new technology around using alternatives to virtual smart cards for patient registrations, which we've got permission to do, which is quite interesting, from the NHS. again, that's a conversation for another day when that's all been done. Yeah, I guess abnormals is potentially in the pipeline. Again, that's a year away, I think.
I was just going to add there, James. So all the products which are coming out, so we've got obviously the pathology ones. The products will coexist with each other on a laptop or PC. So what that means is you could have on the same laptop or PC pathologies running from 9 to 12, patient registers running from 12 to 3, repeat prescriptions running from 6 to 9. They're interchangeable, so it's one product, one platform, and then there will be bespoke automations or bespoke products which will live within the MyBotGP family, and then you will just schedule them, interchange them in terms of how you want them to run on a day-to-day basis, and that's where we get into a one-stop shop for bespoke processes which can be actioned by MyBotGP.
Thanks, Sanj. Yeah, I mean, we see this as your helper. We're not here. We're here to help you replicate your logic to solve some problems. There's lots of other stuff that we've automated in the past, and we don't think that that's sort of correct for this range of products, because things changed. Going back to the questions before about why we're different, things change too much. So trying to copy what people do at practice level in 4 different practices within a PCN and write bespoke stuff for each one, it's in our opinion, a car crash waiting to happen. So you need to build standardized tools that have the ability to manipulate the logic yourself to replicate what you want. Just coming back to something around patient registrations that's interesting. I know there's been some changes in the contract and stuff. We are plugged into the NHS website for our registration tool. So we can pick up registrations directly from the NHS website. We're working very closely with them, and we will put them straight into your practice and register them into your practice. That's all configured and working and stuff, and that
and just to add on that one, is that the key differentiator is the data does not leave your practice. Again, that's what's different around our solution. And as James said, we're working with NHS England. You receive an inbound file. Obviously, the patient will register online. A file comes into your inbox, and MyBotGP simply picks up that file within your inbox and then actions that the onboarding of that patient within EMIS or TPP. And again, most importantly, patient does not leave your practice, which is a complete different solution to the other vendors out there.
Thank you, Sanj. Emily's question here around discounts if whole PCNs, multiple practice. Yeah, I mean, I know everyone's tight on money, and we've kept this as tight as possible. One of the reasons we built the MyBotGP range is to drive the cost down, because the old way you had to buy robots and they were expensive and they had to be coded. So this is already coming in at considerably lighter from a cost perspective. And what we're looking for as an organization is sort of scale. So we are quite tight on pricing. However, that's not to say if you get whole PCNs or multiple practices or whole groups of people coming together that we can't try and help as much as we can. So we'll always have that conversation and do what we can to support. But if someone sort of it's not going to be 50% off, I think is probably the right way to describe it. But yeah, we can see what we can do. But the pricing is pretty fair, we believe. So we've got 5 minutes left.
A couple more questions.
Oh, was that? Oh, sorry, I hadn't seen those. Okay. Oh yeah, apologies, I missed those questions. Thanks, Sanj. Will there also be 6 weeks trial? Yeah. There will be 6 weeks trials for those projects. That's absolutely fine. And will there be discounts if signing up for multiple products when they are released in functionality? Yeah, we can look at that. Although yes, 2 ways of answering that question. Yes, you can. However, from our experience, it's normally best to take one at a time, because what happens is sometimes people can spread themselves a bit too thin, and you don't make best use of each one. So yeah, 100%. But I guess where I'm coming from is that if you're interested in having a look at normal pathology filing, let's get that out of the way and get that done. By the time you've done a full audit on that, got familiar with it and used it, you'll be ready to trial the next product. Taking 2 or 3 at the same time might not save you time, and it may mean that you don't allocate enough time to doing a proper evaluation. I think I missed this question as well, or did I not, Sanj? Did I miss that question?
The audit function. that one, the audit. So the audit, I can take this one. The audit function. So as James mentioned on the platform, it's got a dashboard and analytics, which on execution of every run, it collates the filings of that day. There are a couple of levels to that data. So there's the number of filings for that day, then it's broken out by number of test categories which have been filed for that day, and then there's a detailed granular view at EMIS report ID or a TPP report ID, which gives you the actual breakdown as to what that test category was and why it was not filed, i.e. out of range or one of the rules didn't stack up. That's downloadable, and again from a protocol practice perspective, obviously that's checked every day, and that's circulated by the practice manager to the relevant partners on a frequency that you feel most best suits you on the ground, so to speak. But it's all there, data's available.
Thank you, Sanj. And there's obviously the stuff around DCB 160s. At practice level, which you can obviously explore. A last couple of questions coming through. Downloadable as a CSV,
Excel file. It's an Excel file, Excel formatted report that can be just literally forwarded on.
A couple of minutes left. Any last questions to come through? This will be hopefully recorded. So once it shows it's recorded, it's going to be put on our website. And we'll share a link to everyone afterwards, obviously who's attended, and for those that registered and didn't manage to attend. Free trial is quite straightforward. Contact me or Mihaela, who I believe sent the Sam, should I put my email address in? Or Mihaela, who sent the confirmation. We'll send you some paperwork, and we'll book it in. We'll book it in from there. All we need for the paperwork is the normal stuff, would be the practice name, partners details, how many patients you have, full address and ODS code, and then what we'll do is we'll pop over that, get that back, and then we'll share with you the spreadsheet, and we'll book an install in. We're super busy at the moment with installs, so we're looking probably in about 4 weeks' time. If we get the paperwork done now, it's roughly 4 weeks from when the paperwork's been signed. Yeah, either of those email addresses are great. Any more questions? Brilliant, thank you. We're going to be doing monthly webinars, or continue to be doing monthly webinars. We haven't booked our next one up. We'll do that soon, and then we'll share that. Yeah, and as we release more products, we'll do that. We may invariably do another one on bloods if we're asked to do that again. It seems to be really popular, so we'll continue to do those. And yeah, and hopefully we'll have a backing on our pictures that says MyBotGP for the next webinar, which might be nice as well. So thank you very much, and nice to meet you all, and hope to speak to you soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.